everyone. I am D2, the head writer slash editor for Samurai Gamers, and we're going to do a patch review of the most recent Arena of Valor patch. And I'm here with JBeeZee. How's it going?
Hello.
And Nibiria.
Hello, hello, hello.
And I know you guys from caster school, but maybe 2-second intro. JBeeZee, you can go first.
All right. So again, I am known as JBeeZee here on Twitch, although I technically don't mean mine as known as Josh. Just got into AOV recently, doing MOBAs and stuff. And as far as the caster school thing goes, let's just say that I'm gonna keep it at the label as retired caster.
Oh, come on. You're under NDA. Like, you can't do this.
What? No, I can. I said I was a retired caster. What?
Okay. Well, anyway.
I'm okay. Fine. To reorganize the words, I'm a retired caster, kind of like coming out of it thanks to this stuff. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Right.
You can't tell what happened at the thing until more episodes come.
What?
Anyway.
I've been retired.
Anyway, Nibiria. It can be shorter than that, by the way.
That's a really subtle hint, D2. I like it. I'm Nibiria. I'm a play-by-play shoutcaster for both AOV and League of Legends. That's really about it. I'm also volunteer editing for Samurai Gamers, which has been really fun. Going to start writing a few articles soon, and hopefully they're good enough to be worth reading.
Awesome. Okay, well that's the most formal part of this entire patch notes. It's going to devolve really badly from here. All right,
awesome.
Let's get started. Okay, new version patch note. It says, so Brave Challengers, an update is coming to. Did I say is coming? An update is coming to Arena of Valor. Including this update will be balance improvements for heroes, as well as adjustments to the user interface, arena mechanics, in-game equipment, and more. We hope this update causes matches to feel more fair and exciting, providing all players with an overall better experience. And first glance, that seems to be the case, but we'll go through it. Number one, new gameplay mode, Deathmatch, now available. Long have we waited, and we are not debated this time. It's the new Deathmatch game mode, which has been on the right side of the casual menu for forever. And people have been posting on Reddit, like saying when is it coming out, and finally it's out. And what happens is there are 5 teams consisting of 2 players each, and games are 8 minutes, and there's weird mechanics where if you have, if you kill someone with higher points, then you get to earn more points for your faction. So if you're behind, maybe you want to pair up with another, or kind of team up with another faction to try to get back. What do you guys think about this? So start with JBeeZee.
I think going back to I think what I wanted to, the thought I was sitting on for the new deathmatch mode, and this is only what I heard, and it's actually really cool that with the whole 2v2 thing, kind of reminds me of like a battle right thing happening. But I may have heard a little birdie say that it was only on weekends, so it would be alongside Hook Wars, but like it wouldn't be available the whole week, or like whenever you want to play.
Unfortunate.
So I don't know how that's gonna work, or if that's true. That's just what I heard.
What is the thought process behind playing on weekends, by the way? Is it just to remind people to play on the weekends when they normally wouldn't?
I think just from a player perspective, it's because that's when the most people are playing. And then those lower modes generally don't have as many people playing them. So it's to keep queue times for them short. If you keep them releasing only on the weekends, then the people who like them will always be playing on the weekends. So you guarantee like that there's some people in there.
All right. Do you have any thoughts on the actual game mode?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for this. So this reminds me of anyone who's played StarCraft Brood War 2v2v2v2 BGH. The big game hunters where you would just have 2v2s. Now, alliances were kind of really fluid in StarCraft, and I'm super excited to see something similar here where it's like, oh yeah, we'll help out and then we'll see. We'll help each other out, we'll take out those big 2 at the top, and then maybe we'll kill you both, or maybe you'll kill us. So I am looking forward to playing this with a friend at least. I don't know about solo because I already have enough trouble coordinating with my teammates in solo queue. So, but it looks like a whole lot of fun. So,
the funny thing is that I think this will help people with their targeting a lot, because in StarCraft Brood War you can actually ally with people and unally and all that kind of stuff and kind of backstab them. But I don't think there's that option here, which means that you really need to be paying attention to the avatars. No, but like if you're trying to team up against a specific team, and you need to really kill them. You need to really pay attention to those avatars that pop
Right.
up and change your settings so that you can actually target. You don't want to be the one pressing, auto attack just randomly out into the wilderness and hitting the wrong person.
Yeah, and I really like this too because to your point, stuff like anyone who played StarCraft 2 that had the huge arcade, stuff like the macro trainer or micro trainers where you'd have to constantly be microing a probe around an island to run it away from a Zergling, and then at the same time you'd have to be keeping up production, and then you'd have to be fighting an army and stuff, and that ended up actually raising like the player base skill level. So I'm hoping to see something like that happen with this and have it just sort of be like a hyperbolic time chamber sort of deal for mechanics, because I really think that'd be a great way to bring up the general skill of the game and keep the matches as competitive as possible, because that's really, it's bottom up, sure, but then we're going to see some crazy stuff in Valor series if the general level of play goes up.
Yeah, I'm just hoping
Ooh,
it's not
to
online
be
because-
fair, though, you could still play this game mode solo, and although it says it's like a 2v2v2 arena kind of thing going on, yeah, think about it. Like, of course, if we're just using an OP combo, I can already imagine some people doing is like Superman and Flash, and you can just go into the arena. You take just one of those characters, and I mean, it actually might be a little harder on Superman because the way the map is and how fast it's going to be, and if he can even get off in the air, that's going to be interesting. But just as a prime example, let's go with Flash. So if you're playing the Flash, and you can just zip around everywhere, everyone's going to be, going at each other's throats. You have one more teammate, even if he may not be reliable. All you got to do is just zip around, take out the squishy ones first, work your way towards the tank afterwards, bada bing, bada boom. So it's not completely impossible, even if your teammate doesn't listen to you.
Well, there's the classic combo that we've seen from Valor series lately, which is Alice Flash, and you just wombo combo it up, go hissy fit into Flash's ult, and kill them all.
Yeah, that.
Anyway, we got to move on. All right, user interface optimizations. We've overhauled the lobby UI in the latest version. It looks good to me. What do you guys think?
There's not a whole lot to say here. It's cleaner.
Yeah.
It's no longer just a bunch of freaking squares.
Yeah.
Which is really nice for the user experience. I don't know why it's arranged the way it is, though. 5v5 grand battle in the middle, which I assume is ranked? I don't know. Maybe you can customize how it's... No,
ranked is on the side.
Is that not a button in the middle, then?
Where's custom match? That's the bigger question.
Oh, I think I know what's happening. Okay. I think we can figure this out. The middle lets you change what kind of thing it is. Like, so instead of 5v5, you could do 3v3 maybe, and then casual and ranked are the options under 5v5. I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
It made sense when I looked at it, and now I have more questions.
Oh, okay. Looking at the text, it says added quick access to 5v5 grand battles, so players can get into a game faster. So basically, if you press the grand battle, you immediately get in, whereas if you press casual match, you get all the options instead of having to press.
Awesome,
because people don't like to press buttons 3 times in a row.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, I
It just
guess.
streamlines how quickly I can get into game and how quickly I can get to losing. So all for it.
There's also stuff like the being able to follow the Facebook page and YouTube channel from the lobby UI, all that kind of stuff. Also, new features, exclusive hero and skin tokens, and Zazar actually posted something in the... Oh, oops. Wrong thing. My mistake. Where is that thing? Here we go. Alright. So this is the new hero and skin token system. Hero and skin tokens can be earned through events, chests, lucky draw, and more. This new system can be found via shop, hero skins, redeem. Each hero and skin available with the new system will have their own unique tokens. In addition, there'll also be universal hero tokens and universal skin tokens. These universal tokens can be converted into specific hero or skin tokens at a defined rate, which may vary per hero and skin. We look forward to hearing your thoughts. This looks very much like the SEA version, which I don't think you guys are familiar with, but it's just a better system. It's like basically you just... You know when you spin for something or any sort of lucky draw, or even like in chess, you'll get like gems. Like if you don't get what you want, you'll get like some stupid gem, or you get like gems or like what's it called, the hero trial skins and stuff like that. And it's just like, I don't want this. Whereas like the shards and tokens and stuff like that, I think they're called shards in the
I've got like 17 L'Oreal trials just rotting in my story.
Right. So basically, what happens is that you just build up enough of these, and eventually you'll get a skin or hero. Like there's hero tokens and skin tokens, and like if you have like 80, it says here like 120 to buy Xenial. So if you get 120 hero tokens, you can eventually buy Xenial. So all those waste, like you won't be piling up useless, L'Oreal skins. You'll be piling up eventually useful hero tokens, which if you get enough of, you can. So it's basically, it's not like you're not trying to roll for the hero every single time. Even if you miss, you still kind of inch your way to getting that hero. It's better.
Yeah, I'm just super excited about everything listed under the new features. I'll keep it to the hero and skin tokens for now, because you'll never be able to shut me up otherwise. I'm really looking forward to this as a fairly newer player who still doesn't own anywhere near all of the heroes.
Right. Well, for me, I was on SEA, and my main account's on SEA, and I'm kind of transitioning over to NA, so this is helpful for me as well. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's all it boils down to, right? Because there's every MOBA out there pretty much that doesn't give all the heroes out immediately. So basically everything but Dota 2 has a system to make it more expedient to get additional heroes outside of grinding up the main currency. Like League of Legends has the Hextech chests, HOTS, while not giving you that sort of indirect way. Well, they do actually, now that they have the loot boxes integrated. They also have the daily quests to get you more gold. So now that AOV has one as well, it's just a lot more comfortable for newer players, especially now that they're also adding a quest system that we'll talk about later.
Yeah. And as a mobile game, you really want to pander to your newer players.
Absolutely. No, as any game, really, because that's the lifeblood of a game. As much as the hardcore players really want to say, no, we're what keeps the game alive. Yeah, kind of. But at the same time, without new players, you don't have a game to be hardcore about.
Right.
So this is great.
I think it's going to be awesome that they're actually bringing this in, as you guys were like talking about and everything. But like the whole fact of finally, even though they have a business model that they run where you can get vouchers, get skin, I've been doing that for this longest time. I have champion skins, all that stuff covered. I think this token system, depending which way it goes, could be highly useful. And depending on what skins they offer too, could actually make it even better.
Right, we're just gonna speed through the rest of this stuff. It's everything just looks good. They're all positive things, and as far as the new features, game optimizations, and setting optimizations.
That's highly positive.
Yeah, they're all good. You guys can read through it. I don't know if you can read the link on the top of there, but you basically go to arenavalor.com and you can find it there. I'll put the link in the description as well. If you're on Twitch chat, then sorry. Anyway, you can ask for it if you're in Twitch chat. All right, let's go to the next one. Arena mechanic adjustments. So starting with the Seagull and the Spirit Sentinel. Base gold for a Seagull has been lowered, and the radius of the vision has been lowered as well. And then the Spirit Sentinel, the XP has been lowered. And I forgot who I was talking to about this yesterday. I think it was you, JBeeZee, where they just don't want to force people to have punish early game, every single game.
Yeah, I think we briefly discussed upon it. But if you're looking at how things are running right now, you see people like Zenny, or actually no, let's go even more back. Kil'Groth. I've seen this happening in lane, as weird as that might be, running punish, just so they can try and get that early lead that they want to get. And they, of course, the farming is efficient, but at the same time, do you really want that to be there in that part of the game early?
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Because Xenial gets punished all the time because he wants the Leviathan, and then in order to counter the Xenial taking all the objectives away in the Dark Slayer lane, the Kil'Groth will just go for punish as well, and then you have like everyone in the DS lane getting punished, and then everyone else maybe even like in the Abyssal lane trying to get those extra objectives. And it's pretty interesting, right, that these particular Dark Slayer lane specific monsters, I guess Seagull's on both sides, but yeah, they're just trying to make it so that you're not forced to get punished or else you'll fall behind, kind of thing. Because it's so whenever I play Dark Slayer lane, which is a lot because I main Max and Xenial, when I'm there and the opposing player doesn't have punish, I'm like, okay, free Sentinels the entire game. Easy. And then you just kind of have all this vision. You can see where their jungler is at. It's super nice. So it totally makes sense. And it also makes sense not that they didn't mess with the Abyssal Dragon, because, I mean, by the time you get to the Abyssal Dragon, your jungler is going to be there anyway, so it's kind of a free-for-all as far as who will be able to take it, depending on who has Punish.
I mean, my one concern here would be how this affects actual junglers who just run Punish anyways, right? I know you don't generally run like hard jungle necessarily, but do you think this will cause any slowdowns in the early game for those that like to prioritize the camps and buffs and stuff? Or is the experience nerf just not that big?
What do you mean? Are you talking about junglers, or are you talking about just like
Junglers specifically?
Oh, well, the jungler, it doesn't,
Because they don't generally take the Seagull because it's like out in the river, and it's just
yeah, it's
a
like they're
pain in the ass to kill anyways.
yeah. I mean,
But-
if you do one wave of your jungle minus the last monster in the corner, the one near or on the bottom of your side of the map, then if you get the Seagull, you should still be able to get level 4. So I don't think it's a big deal that in that regard. Yeah, the actual jungler, this doesn't really affect the actual jungler very much. The biggest thing is like if you clear your jungle quickly and go straight to the Spirit Sentinel, which is what a lot of people do, they'll start on the Abyssal side, go to the Darkslayer side, take the Spirit Sentinel really quick, and then rotate over to the Abyssal Dragon. This lowers the XP for your entire team, right? Because I think it's a global XP. So it kind of makes Abyssal even more of a priority because people can just kind of ignore the Spirit Sentinel, whereas sometimes you can just stealth take it. Like sometimes people don't even. I'll just take the Spirit Sentinel as like max or something. People won't even notice I took it. So.
Right.
Plus the buff is pretty strong. You get extra movement speed and healing. All right, let's move on. Minion waves. To ensure balance between red and blue minion waves, optimize the model size, routes of travel, and the permanence in battle. Hopefully this fixes the random minions just separating from each other, and one derpy melee minion running into the tower and denying you the last hit and stuff like that. It's just like,
Well, I hope it fixed the biggest thing, which is if like your teammate who was somehow mysteriously standing in front of a wave, and then the entire wave just kind of derps and runs in a circle for a good while before it goes back to going forward. And I think that's what this addresses, hopefully.
I think that's the next note.
Oh no, that he's talking about minion waves.
No,
but...
that's it's minion waves. Yeah, it's the pathing that they go to, and sometimes you'll be like at the final tower. Yeah, and if you have someone in front, sometimes the minions will literally like just go nuts and run in a circle and not go forward.
Oh,
which is horrible.
I usually don't stand there. I usually actually kill the minions. I've never experienced that. Anyway, monsters. This is a kind of a big one actually. This changes a lot of strategy as far as pulling monsters out. So optimize the attack priority of normal monsters, which means not epic monsters, which means not abyssal dragon, that kind of stuff. So when monsters were attacked and entered battle, they used to prioritize attacking the unit that damaged them. This gave long-range units the ability to lead monsters far away. So basically, this will prevent you from attacking their blue buff or red buff and just running away and slowing down their jungling speed, because they could just re-aggro it onto themselves. And I think this is how the Abyssal Dragon worked anyway, so they didn't need to switch or change the Abyssal Dragon, how that works. So this is good. I think there's less cheese, there's less stupid stuff going on. If you want to mess with their jungling, you have to actually go in and get in there. Unless you're Greg, in which case you can just pull them out. But Greg's not very good anyway, so that doesn't matter. Alright.
It's his one saving. Let him keep it.
Alright. Next, gold. Gold for getting last hit on the minion, 20%, 30%. Optimize sound effects and visual effects for last hits. I'm curious what that sounds like, / looks like. If you're not aware, when you last hit, there's like a bunch of coins that go in the air and you hear the sound of change, like the standard money sound. But maybe it's louder, or maybe it sounds better, or something like that. This is pretty interesting because it makes it so that people who can clear waves faster they benefit from this. And it makes it so like if you're in a 2-on-1 situation, you get even more advantages because it's harder to last hit when your tower is shooting at minions. Stuff like that, little things like that, where you might be getting a little bit of advantages. Although me personally, coming from HOTS, I kind of just like just getting the XP and getting the gold.
Yeah.
But I can see where this is coming from, where it's prioritizing, really focusing on the laning phase. Though that said, this just helps Superman even more, because now he gets even more gold from just one-shotting the lane and moving on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
still
gonna be
not at
fun.
the point where you have to contest waves or anything, so I like it though. It rewards actually properly last hitting, so skill expression is always a good thing.
This last thing, I'm actually not sure what it is. JBeeZee, do you know what this is? Challenger ability removed from all modes, immune?
That I actually was confused about that as well. Apparently, I mean, I guess I could open up the game and look now, but like I didn't see an ability that was called immune. But apparently there was one like that. I thought the one that did that was endure, but endure is apparently still in the game. So let's see here if I'm the.
Wait, how do you know that endure is still in the game?
Or at least for now, I don't know. But I'm saying like unless they made a typo error and they're saying that endure is gone and that's actually immune because that would be the same effect.
I think.
Then that would go on there.
Yeah, I think this might be a Google Translate error, because basically Teamy, they make the patch and they write it for Taiwan first, and then we have to go. They have to go and Google Translate it. Like
Okay, yeah. So if it's a typo error, it's endure.
Yeah, this is probably endurance mode, I would imagine, which is pretty big. So there are quite a few heroes that rely on endure, and they'll have to pick up the new item, which we'll go over in a couple. In Arctic Orb, it's on the screen right now. Arctic Orb. They'll have to get that in order to use it, which is a big deal because, as we'll go over in a second, you're sacrificing a lot in order to get Arctic Orb. So heroes like Tulin, whose passive goes off while they're in Endure, which is a big deal, by the way. You do a ton of damage while you're just sitting there invulnerable. People like, Liliana, it's reasonable on her. More importantly, like L'Oreal early game. L'Oreal late game, her cooldowns are so low when she uses Smite that he doesn't need to actually endure. But early game, you smite, you use the wheel and blink, and while your cooldowns are coming off cooldown, you use endure, and you basically just wipe the entire team, even though it's still early game. So that kind of thing where, or like even like heroes like Jinnar can go in an ult and he still does damage. His ult still does damage while he's in endure. So cheesy plays like that, they have to basically invest in Arctic Orb in order to do that. This is all assuming that we're correct, but the fact that we have no idea what this
I have
means.
to assume we are.
Yeah.
Because challenger ability is not a phrase that's even in the game, so it has to be a translated error.
Right. Okay. Speaking of the new items, let's go on to those. Equipment adjustments. I had 3 new pieces of equipment. Anabolic Rage Bow, which down 2 inches from that says Bow of Slaughter, so I'm don't know which one it is. I'm gonna go with, we're just gonna go with Bow of
We're
Slaughter.
getting a lot of evidence for that whole Google Translate error thing right now.
Right.
It's happening live, yeah.
We're gonna go with Bow of Slaughter. The other one's Rock Shield, or Rock Shield and Arctic Orb, which are thankfully the exact same. But let's go with the first one. Bow of Slaughter. It's funny, like, you kind of like cover the bottom and you can kind of guess what they are from the crafting. It's like Cleave and Clave, that's damage. Bloodied Club, that's lifesteal. Glove, that's crit. Wait a second. Crit plus lifesteal.
Weird.
So price 2,300 gold, 90 damage. It's pretty nice. 10% lifesteal, pretty nice as well. That's the same as like Fafnir's Talent, I think, and Blitzblade. And then critical chance 20%, which is obviously the same as the old Slick Sting, as we'll get to in a second, and Devil's Handshake. So, and active effect. This is our first time we're seeing active effects for items. And Nibiria, you coming from the league, you can talk about that. So lifesteal is increased by 90% for 3 seconds after activation. Only effective at long distance. So your marksman and cooldown is 60 seconds, which is kind of like the what's the talent that gives you extra attack speed?
It is Roar.
Roar, right? And that's like I think a 60-second cooldown as well. It's kind of like that.
Yes.
The funny thing is, so it says lifesteal is increased by 90%. I'm assuming that means all of your lifesteal. So we might see like newer players get the beast and just go for all the lifesteal, but as we've seen in the past, it's like, healing the full from
hilarious.
healing the full from one
like
attack.
Butterfly.
It's not really working.
Butterfly with this and the beast.
But only effective at long distance.
Oh, all right, darn.
Right.
That's why they added that.
Exactly, because Butterfly would otherwise go insane. But yeah, the nice thing is that you don't have. This is kind of like you don't have to get the beast anymore, right? Newer players, you no longer ever need to get the beast. Just get Bow Slaughter. You'll get your crit. You'll get your damage. And if you need the lifesteal, you can have it when you want it. Those are my thoughts. Other than this is a really good item.
Yeah. That said, I'm gonna go on a slight tangent about active items in general. I'm almost certain that everyone watching this video will be familiar with them, but in case you aren't, pretend it's a skill that's in an item slot. Bam, done. One of the problems that I know at least Riot Games found in League of Legends was that a lot of players would buy the active items and never use the active. It was something like 90% of the time a certain item was bought, the active was never once used. Which is just hilarious. But it's a real concern, and that's definitely going to be a problem at first. But one of the nice things about active items is that it really increases the skill ceiling of the game. And there's a lot of ways to use an active right, but there's a lot more ways to use it wrong. And now that we're going to have 3 active items in the game, I'm really excited to see how they're used, especially Arctic Orb, which I think is going to create a lot of playmaking potential alongside Flicker. Because before you had to choose between Endure, Flicker, and like Heal. Now you can have 2 if one of them is Endure.
Right. We'll get
which
to
is
that in a
going to be...
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but the gist of it is that active items add a lot of player choice and player agency in fights and a lot of skill expression, which is really good for the competitive scene. It's really good if you are looking to find a way to get better that is really not easy necessarily, but demonstrable. It's like, okay, I didn't hit my button at all in that fight. Oops. So
I like this
I think it's
particular...
really good.
Yeah, I like this particular active effect for Bow Slaughter though, because again, I hate to, to wear on this point, but the beast, it's such like a crutch, I should say.
Yeah.
Because people will buy it thinking I need the lifesteal in fights. It's like I need the survivability, but it's like you'll die in 2 seconds anyway. You're not gonna get that many attacks off. So, and it's like, and when you're out of battle, you only need really Fafnir's Talon and maybe Omni Arms to heal back to full. You don't need to heal back in 2 hits, 2 attacks. So it's one of those things where now you have this ability. It's much more effective, and you use it when you need it, right? You can like kind of see inside the minds of new players who are like, what if I get low in health in the middle of a fight? It's like, well, now you don't need the beast for that. You can use this. And the nice thing is that when you commit to crit, you typically, or before, it was your typical crit package to get the 50% crit was Claves or Clavis Sancti, that's actual pronunciation, and Slick Sting, but that provided 0 lifesteal. So then from there, you're like, well, do I go Fafnir's and then I don't get enough, and then I kind of want to get maybe Frostcape instead of Omni, so I'm not getting much lifesteal, so I don't want to, but I want to have to go to base. So yeah, this is very nice. You just kind of fit it in there and get your lifesteal while you're at it. He's TJ. What about those Kriknak buffs though? We'll get to him in a second, TJ. You can do it in the call, by the way, if you want to. All right, next one, Rock Shield. So by the way, Bow Slaughter, the biggest downside I see is that it's pretty expensive. It's like 300 more than a lot of other items. Anyway, next one, Rock Shield. This is a very interesting one. So
I love this item.
Yeah, Negative Vitality, Light Armor, Gladiator's Gauntlets, 150 armor, 150 magic defense, 800 HP. Already the stats are very nice. Obviously, you need a passive to make it worth its price, but there's very few items that offer that much armor. I mean, in fact, this is the only item that offers that much armor and that much defense and that much magic defense and HP on top of it.
And the
Hercules Madness offers that much armor and magic defense, but not HP. And Hyoga's Edge only provides 100 armor and 100 magic defense. Just this is off the
I feel like this would work well with Xennial, like for sure.
Yeah.
With the way that you already build him and then just add this item there.
Being a Xennial main, Gaia standard. Gaia standard all the way.
I think Gaia's is never gonna go away. You know, like
Right, but like I think Rock Shield doesn't really compete. Anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. We'll talk about Daniel in a second. So unique active. Rock Shield, 3 seconds after activation, gain a shield equal to 30% of the damage taken within those 3 seconds, plus 10% of max HP. I guess that's where your Xenial thing comes in. The shield lasts for 3 seconds. The player's damage output is reduced by 70 seconds for 3 seconds after activation. So basically, while you have the shield, you have way less damage output, which turns you into Toro, kinda. This is the biggest downside of the item. It's like, well, I can completely ignore this person now because they're not doing any damage to me. That said, if you use all your cooldowns on that person in those 3 seconds and they just don't die afterward, then that's problematic. So anyway, cooldown 75 seconds. The damage taken during the active effect of Rock Shield refers to the accumulated damage received before the defense reduction. That just means that if I have a bajillion armor, then that won't reduce the amount of the shield that I get. It's just how much damage is coming in.
Yeah, I love this active so much. And it's for the exact same reason I was hyping up active items in general, is that the choices you have to make are really impactful. And this has the capability to turn a fight entirely if everyone's not paying attention. And I think it's going to be really good on tanks that are highly ability based in damage, because you're going to pop it, blow all your cooldowns within 3 seconds, and then suddenly you're going to get a huge shield. Usually after 3 seconds, people are going to be like, oh my god, this tank is blowing so many of their cooldowns. We have to stop them. Suddenly you're going to have this massive shield based on your max HP and any of the damage you took while you were throwing out your abilities. And I think it's just going to be, it's going to be fun to watch too. It's the really hype thing for me, is that it's just going to have a whole lot of playmaking potential. And I love it. I'm sorry. That's just,
The funny thing is, I wonder how quickly people will catch on, or if they'll ever catch on. Like, if you have Rock Shield and someone just jumps in and is suspiciously, like, 1v5ing everyone and not using any abilities because they're trying to take more damage. It's like, maybe we should stop attacking this guy.
It's like, maybe we should.
I don't know if there's going to be some sort of indicator that they've activated it.
I think there needs to be, because otherwise this item is just like legitimately broken.
Well, I don't know.
Sorry, DTwo. There are a couple different items or abilities like that are like really powerful stasis effects, and it's like a slight glow that nobody ever notices. So
That's true.
The odds that there's like a little tiny glow are pretty high.
By the way, for the YouTubes, this is TJ. What's up, TJ?
Hello.
It's
Introduce yourself in 10
being a
seconds.
bro all over again.
TJ caster.
Nice. That's good. I like it.
Good.
Yeah, like for if you guys didn't know, referring to what TJ is talking about, for things like Shield of the Lost, you'll see this little like blue circle, for instance, stuff like that, where you can kind of see most things have an indicator, but they don't want to make it so spectacular that you can't see what the hell's going on the screen. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll be like a little thing that you can kind of barely see, like TJ's talking about.
Well, it's so like Conqueror. Lubu's ultimate is a really good stasis indicator, because it's like giant poleaxe starts throwing off sparks, and you're like, that is a scary poleaxe, I should stay away from it. So there's like a scale there, where some things like the Conqueror I think is perfect, and then like you said, Shield of the Lost, nobody is ever going to notice in the middle of a team fight. So there's a sliding scale, and I'm hopeful it'll be more on the Conqueror side, but think it's more likely that it's too small for the casual player to notice.
Well, I think what you just said, too small for the casual player to notice, is true of like all status effects. Coming as a former very casual player, I was never able to understand anything. I was like, oh, that's a pretty color. Like, that was about my understanding.
Yeah. When you're new to the game, like when I first started playing HOTS, when I first started playing this, you never notice anything. You never notice any of those things.
Well, for this, I think they have to make it impactful because, like TJ was saying, Conqueror is like a huge in-your-face one versus Shield of the Lost, which is nothing. But if you think about what each one of those does, like Lubu is suddenly doing a lot more damage and is healing off of it. Oh dear God, we're in trouble. Versus, oh, your attack speed is always going to be lower.
Right.
Oh dear God, the humanity. Like nobody cares.
Yeah.
So
I care.
well, we respect you for it, TJ.
I think the best one is when you have Frostcape or Apocalypse or Omniarms, and the hero's hands turn a different color. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I just want to get
It's
that out
subtle, but like enough to notice if you're looking for it.
there. Yeah. All right, moving on to the next one. Arctic Orb. We were talking about this earlier. Price is 2,000, which is somewhat cheap. Crafting Enchanted Scroll, which is damage, spell tome, damage, spell tome, more damage. So, which means ability power, 200. That's a lot. That's like the 5th highest-ish. But the big thing is unique active Coagulate. Immune to all effects for 1.5 seconds. Unable to move, attack, or use abilities. Basically, Endure as an active ability. And the cooldown, I believe, is the exact same time as Endure. Thoughts? I have my own thoughts, but we'll start with JBeeZee, I suppose.
Yeah, so like I'm pretty sure we talked about this yesterday. I think we did have the discussion.
For
but
the YouTubes, come on, tell the YouTubes.
I think so. The idea I brought to D2 yesterday was that Arctic Orb. I mean, just starting off with the active, moving the what quote unquote I'm going to assume at this point is Endure, having an effect and stuff. You could move this item before Orb of the Magi. Like, you know, this whole time mages have been getting Orb of the Magi, and it's really good. And I personally think if you can complete the item within the 5-minute mark minimum, it's good, and you can keep rolling with it. But like, if you're having a hard time, or depending like who you're matched up with, Arctic Orb could potentially be a great starting item to run with. You know, and of course you're working your way to get that pass, the active. So I'm not quite sure how well it would work, and I'm not quite sure if you can run that with Orb. But yeah,
like,
that's what I would like to know.
I feel like getting Arctic Orb first is similar to getting Rhea's Blessing first. It just doesn't feel good. Just trying to get that
I think
utility.
it might be a bit of a trap to do.
Might be a bit of what?
A noob trap,
Yeah.
possibly. But 200 ability power is a lot in the early game, so
Yeah, but so are a lot of items. You can get Boomstick.
Oh, that was
Right.
yeah, that was actually the other thing we were mentioning is the whole I think you were talking about how it could be useful at the beginning for like you were talking about baiting out plays, or like if you can make those kind of plays. Obviously, you know, in most of the gameplay you're going to see, that's not going to happen. People are going to misuse it in ways that it shouldn't be used. But in that sense, getting it early again brings up it's the if, but I think it could be worth depending on how you're running it and what you want to do.
I think I was mentioning this to you yesterday. I think at high level play, it could be very good if you're extremely competent at using the Endure ability, like with Jinnar, like with Tulin, right? But I think at lower levels, it's a bit of a noob trap. It's like somehow it's really bad at lower levels, but people will get it anyway. I think it'll be largely ignored at middling levels, and then at high levels, it'll actually be used and bought and used correctly, if that makes any sense. Because at lower levels, it's like, oh, I want Endure, I want this, you know, this what do you call it? English, I can't do English right now. Just that safety of it, right? The, you know,
right.
the panic button that you use to not die. But you're probably going to use it at the wrong time. And the biggest thing about Arctic Orb is that 200 ability power is reasonable, but you compare it to the other items, Boomstick has more ability power, and every single time you use an ability, it does even more because of its passive. It's basically like super ability power. And even Boomstick is a situational item because there's no other stats to it. There's no you know, defense stats, there's no HP. Like, because basically comparing Arctic Orb and Boomstick to the rest of the items, there's no HP, there's no armor, there's no magic defense, there's no CDR, there's no pierce. So you're really paying a lot for that Endure.
Yeah, you definitely need the act to justify.
Right. Well, any other thoughts on Arctic Orb, or should we go on?
I have a general one if no one else has anything, because
Go ahead.
So one of the things you were mentioning earlier, way earlier, was that you were thinking that this wouldn't be great for Tulin and Liliana. And one of the things I wanted to mention was that in the sort of PR speak version of the patch notes, they mentioned that they were actually trying to bring up the traditional less mobile mages power level in comparison to those. And I think this item might be an opportunity to do that in order to give them a little bit of safety, because they'll have to invest in it, sure, but hopefully it allows them to put out more damage more safely, because now they can take something like heal or flicker to keep them even more safe in the back line without needing to have mobility in the kit. I don't know if you think that necessarily rings as true as I think it might.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree. Because
Okay.
Endure has typically been really good on the opposite, like the super mobile mages, who can basically they just use Endure to wait for their cooldowns to come back.
If you're
And
if you're being dove, you don't want to be stuck where you're being dove. Endure has not been used as a defensive tool for these mages, right, D2?
yeah,
And I'll cut you off of that. It's so, though there is the potential, and I think it's actually gonna be super good for, like, as someone who plays Liliana, I'm pretty stoked for this. I don't know if it'll be a full thing, but the idea that I can dive in, still have flicker, and then have the possibility of just enduring in a ludicrous position and waiting for my cooldowns to come back up is stupid. So I'm like a little bit worried that this is going to have the opposite effect, and we're going to keep seeing those poke mobility mages will be just extraordinarily powerful.
just
Let's
all the
take the flip
safety.
side of that. Or the continuation, rather. Sorry, D2, I cut you off again. But okay, let's say that's true then, and that this is picked up on like every mobile mage. But what are they sacrificing in order to pick this up? Because as we've been saying, it only gives ability power, and sure, it's a decent amount. But D2, you were saying that Boomstick gives more, and passive. Other things give magic pierce. This doesn't give any.
Yeah, for the mobile mages, they have a really strict build order, and it typically involves something like the Aegis plus Rhea's Blessing. If you're picking Zill, you're gonna get Loki's Curse and Apocalypse, so that's 3 slots taken up if you include boots. Yeah, if there's very limited space, and even with the Hecate's change, I think a lot of people would be picking that because it provides almost always the most ability power. Holy of Holies is still gonna be popular pick, so people.
I think it's fair to say it's more likely to help mobility mages than it is to help static mages, but more likely is the key word there, because I think the end result is it actually won't change much because the item's too shit to trade out for anything else.
I think
Crazy.
you just.
Oh, sorry, am I not?
I like
Am I
your
not
hot
supposed to-
take there, TJ.
Yeah, I think you just hurt JBeeZee's feelings.
I'm sorry, JBeeZee. But crazy thought, D2. You can tell me about the viability of this. If you're, say, a Vitality sadist who enjoys your games going 8 hours, could you run it as a starting item and then swap it out for something late game on a few characters, like people do with, say, Ancestral Glory?
You mean swap? Like you said, get
Wouldn't
it
you want the
early.
reverse?
You said swap it, get it early, and swap it later.
Yes.
Or are you saying get Ancestral Glory and then when you?
I would. Well, I mean, the fundamental question is: do you buy? Is it reasonable to buy this and swap it out for something else? I would say that's more likely to happen where you buy an early game and then you trade it out for something better in the late game.
Yeah, it's
But
possible. I was
think-
like I was mentioning earlier with L'Oreal, you need the Endure early because your cooldowns aren't short enough at that point because you don't have enough CDR items. Your CDR doesn't actually go down with your ability level up. It goes down with the CDR items that you get. Although to be fair, in that case, why wouldn't you just get the CDR items first? So it's just like that kind of just exacerbates the problem in a way. Yeah. I think that this item is like very, very situational. It's like Jinnar, Tulin kinda. It's like the heroes who can deal a lot of damage while coagulated. just to use.
God, that is such an awful descriptor.
Of
Why is that the
coagulation.
name of the active? That is so. Oh,
So do you
I'm
know,
you're a
do you know
blood
the
clot now.
definition?
Live with it.
Do you know the
I'm
definition
actively
of
coagulating.
coagulate?
I think he just
Do you
gave it,
know the
right?
definition of coagulate?
I think
Coagulate, because it
Nibiria
like
just gave
literally
it, but
doesn't make sense.
I think it's a Google Translate thing.
It literally doesn't make sense.
But does it figuratively make sense? Is the question.
No. in no way. The only way it could make sense, and this isn't out of the question because there's some things like this in AOV, is if we're going to get a lore description that explains how you're coagulating your blood to form an ice-like shell or something weird.
No, I
Like,
got
that's
this.
the
I got this
only way
already.
it could make sense.
All right, so the lore,
Makes sense to me.
for it, health points are like blood, right? So if you coagulate, it's harder to take your blood out. Now, I can't logic it through.
Nibiria, do you work for the AOV writing department? I think I've seen your work before in some of the lore videos
Lol.
that are on the main channel.
Oh my god.
Not yet, but my DMs are open.
Not yet. Hire this man.
Oh.
Alright, I think it's time to move on. We talked about Arctic Orb enough.
Yeah.
Alright,
That
Flashy
item
Boots.
will be a thing.
Flashy Boots, 70 gold cheaper. Enchanted Cakes, 80 gold cheaper. Hermes Select, 50 gold cheaper. All of this makes sense to me. These boots were not picked anyway. I think a lot of people would argue that Gilded Greaves Sonic Boots are just better. I mean, Hermes Select aside, it's kind of a situational item, right? Like, specific heroes take it. But Enchanted Cakes, Flashy Boots, people specifically chose the other boots ahead of them, even if they were, like, the same price. So bringing these prices down makes sense to me. Though Hermes Select is going to be really... That having that 50 gold earlier is going to be really interesting because people will be zooming around the map at, like, you know, level 2.
Okay,
I wonder if we'll still see any Enchanted Cakes plays coming out now. Maybe?
No, I mean, we see it sometimes. Like, I think
Not as often as I would like.
I think I saw in, like, GCS that the Flash was taking Enchanted Kicks because obviously he already has enough movement speed and he just needs to use his abilities quickly enough and doesn't need Gilded Greaves in that instance. But well, Enchanted Kicks might be. We're gonna get to this in a second, but Hecate's Diadem is getting its pierce removed, so maybe people need Enchanted Kicks now.
Yeah.
All right.
That would make sense. All right.
All right. So, Medallion of Troy goes up in price by 100. I think it's reasonable. It's a lot of magic defense, a lot of HP, by the way, and CDR, and you get this nice unique passive with the shield. So yeah, makes sense. And everyone was picking it. It was basically the go-to item because just mages are scary sometimes. And to add to that, to kind of add to the competition between Medallion Troy and Gaia Standard 100 HP boost, but more importantly, 60 magic defense boost, which is huge. Because there was nothing even close to Medallion of Troy's 360, and now it's slightly closer. It's no longer half. It's now, you know, at least closer. It's now just 2/3. Is that right? Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And as someone who, like I mentioned before, with Xenial, you really want to get Gaia Standard for the heal. And basically, you're choosing between Gaia Standard for the heal, which lets you stay in lane longer and obviously helps you sustain in fights better. It's that versus the CDR and the extra magic defense, from Medallion of Troy. And this makes me so much happier. I mean, even though I love CDR, it's like my favorite thing. I love Gaia Standard like a lot. And anytime I can get away with just getting Gaia Standard, not Medallion of Troy, I'm a happy person. Especially with Xenial, because he just heals so much.
Yeah, I think it'll be good in keeping it competitive, and it increases the gold gap between the two items as well. So Gaia Standard, I think, is going to be like not necessarily the budget version, but if you're trying to hit power spikes and you just need something defensive against magic that keeps you in fights, Gaia Standard might get picked up a lot more.
I just like that there's more options in general for magic defense. Before it was like Medallion of Troy, And like even if the other team had like 3 mages, like for instance they have a Xenial and a Zill and a Flash, right, which is a thing you'll see quite often, especially in competitive play. In that instance, you're like, well, okay, I'll get Medana Troy, and then Gaia Standards, like, do I want to, like, if you really don't want Gaia Standards, investing in it because it's the next best magic defense item, even though you only get 180, just feels bad. At that point, you're like, well, maybe I should just get Hercules Madness, but Hercules Madness, it feels weird, again, going for Hercules Madness, which is kind of like a bruiser item just for the magic defense. It's just a bizarre thing, right? And now we have Gaia Standard, now we also have the Rock Shield, so there are many more options. And if people are talking about, like, a lot of people talking about, mages being nerfed this patch, and this is the biggest reason why people think so. It's not because of any changes made to the mages themselves, it's because the options for magic defense are way better now.
And then the following change.
And the following change, I get the item, and you can already tell from the crafting, because they took away Spoopy Mask and replaced it with Enchanted Scroll, which, by the way, I believe this is the exact same crafting as Holy of Holies now, which is interesting. So ability power goes from 200 to 240, but they removed the Magic Pierce of 75, which feels bad. By the way, if you guys didn't know, the Magic Pierce of Hecate's item did previously stack with Enchanted Kicks, but strangely enough, it did not stack with Spoopy Mask. So that's a thing. But not a thing any longer. If you're curious, the ability power, bring it to 240 means that if you just buy Hecate's, it'll give you like 310 or something like that. So that's nice. It used to be 270. Or like 318, I guess. But anyway, it basically means that Hecate's, it used to be, I think, like if you had 96 or 7 ability power, you already got more ability power from Hecate's than you got with Holy of Holies. So on the bright side, basically no matter what, if you unless you literally have Hecate's and no AP after that, you're always gonna have more AP with Hecate's than you will with Holy of Holies. But losing the Magic Pierce is obviously a big deal.
Yeah, but like you were saying, with the Enchanted Kicks, literally replaces the 75 you lost. But
Right.
as a result, those
Losing
mages
Guild
are gonna be
Agrees.
a lot less tanky.
Losing Guild Agrees or something, which is a big deal though.
Right. So that is a decent nerf to them. But I'm wondering if is that better or worse for the stationary longer range mages?
Well,
I feel like it's almost better, because if you get engaged on, you're screwed anyways, right?
Yeah, I think it's better. I think you're right. I think for long range Nuki mages, the reason why is because this is a weird thing to think about, but Staff of Newell is an indirectly defensive item, because you're getting it to counter stacked magic defense, because the opponent has to be at like 375 or something like that in order to start outdoing Soaring Aura, which you wouldn't get anyway, but just to give a comparison. Or if another good comparison is the old Hecate's plus Enchanted Kicks. Anyway, the point is that you're going to be using Staff of Newell because you want it on tanks. It helps a little bit against backline, but the point is, it means you don't have to compromise your position. You don't need to be focusing on their backline and getting yourself out of position in order to do so. You just burn their tanks. You chunk their tanks faster than they can chunk yours, and then your team wins the fight that way. It's just basically, 2 5v5 running their heads into each other instead of ganking and running around. So in that case, because there's diminishing returns, if you get Staff of Newell plus, this / Enchanted Kicks, it makes it a lot better for the long-range nukers. So if you're a long-range nuker, you get Hecate's, you get Staff of Newell, and you kill people really quickly. The front line, I mean. You basically just melt the front line. And you don't, and it's a lot easier too. It's a lot easier to just, aim your stuff at the guy right in front of you than trying to run around and kill their backline. Yeah.
Just kind of toss it out in a roughly forwards direction, and you're bound to hit one front line.
Exactly. So yeah, this will help long-range nukers. It's a pretty, it's kind of annoying for other mobile mages.
But that's what they were trying to do. So I guess mission accomplished.
I still think it's going to be picked a lot. It's not going to be auto pick, but it's going to be one of the more picked items. All right, Clava Sancti, price increased by 250, damage reduced by 10, unique passive, critical chance 30% goes down to 25%, but unique passive, it gets the old unique passive from Slick Sting, which is increased critical damage by 50%. So, I'd have to run the numbers, but overall I think this adds quite a bit of damage. If you just average them out, on average.
That's a buff.
Yeah.
For this item specifically.
In case you guys don't know what critical damage... So basically, when you get a critical hit, it does twice the damage. If you have Clava Sancti and no other weird arcana, like Rampage I think it is, then you will do 250% instead of 200% damage. That's what that does. So if you're Violet and you have a 500 damage attack, instead of doing 1,000, you would do 1,250. So that's why we think this is buff in damage, because that extra 50% will provide 250 instead of whatever the exact damage that it provides.
Yeah.
Not much really to say here, other than it's just kind of shifted around the power of it. And with the change to Slick Sting, which we'll get to in a moment, it kind of changes how you think about it. But I think this is still going to be pretty standard item on most heroes, and it's going to be interesting because people are going to really be chunked when they get hit by a crit from Clavis. All right, I guess we'll move on then. I guess we'll move on. No one has any thoughts. All right.
Yes, let's move on.
All right, Slick Sting. Price goes on 50, which is interesting. So crafting 10 plates of gloves goes to 10 plates plus gloves. And the reason for that, critical chance went up 5%. Also, attack speed went up 5%, which is crazy. 35% attack speed is insane. Movement speed up to 7%, which I like. I like the idea of people with crit just being able to just zoom around the map. Okay, remove the increased critical damage by 50%. Obviously, that was added to the Clava Sancti. Newly added unique passive, Blessing of the Wind, increase own resistance by 35 for 2 seconds after a critical hit. So, what this does is make it more viable for melee heroes to go for crit builds. By the way, resistance, we believe, has a cap of 60%. But up until now, the only way to test that was with Max's Liftoff and Kil'Groth, because that brought it up to 65%. But if you look at his stats, it only said 60%. So we're like, is this a bug or is this the cap? We think it's the cap. So be careful, people out there. If you have Kil'Groth and you have Slick Sting, you won't go up to 70 resistance. You only go up to 60, probably.
There we go. We're learning.
Thoughts?
Here's the best thing that's going through with everyone, though, is would you still like to take the Claves and the Slicks? I say not. Like, you don't necessarily need to get both anymore, depending on the build that you want to run with it. Because some people are debating whether they can still, like, because, for some of the staple builds that we see on some of the characters, you will see Claves and Slicks, but that's because they kind of both go with each other. But now that they did this, do you think it's still going to be a thing, or it's going to be a one-sided route?
Okay, well, the reason why people want Claves and Slicks is because Devil's Handshake was garbage. But now there's Bow of Slaughter, so there's more options. I think that we'll see Bow of Slaughter plus Claves a lot. I think that we also might see Bow of Slaughter and Slicks, but not on melee heroes, because melee heroes can't use the passive, or the active, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, we could even see all of them, honestly, because the stats with attack speed, critical chance, and all that, they just synergize so well with each other.
Yeah, so here, let's look at the combinations. So if you go Bow of Slaughter plus Clava Sancti, you have 180 damage. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I don't want to scroll up again. The critical chance would be 45%. And you get increased critical damage. If you go Clavis plus Slicks, you have 50% crit chance, which is the same as before. Movement speed, attack speed, critical damage, and resistance if you get a critical hit. If you go Bow of Slaughter plus Slick Sting, you get 90 damage, attack speed, 45% critical chance, movement speed, no extra critical damage, but resistance, and you get the if you're ranged, you get the extra lifesteal active. So yeah, I think all three would be pretty good. There's kind of diminishing returns for crit, because a lot of times, like say for instance, if you're Violet, you don't care. It sounds weird to say, but you don't care when you get your crits as long as you get it at some point, right? Because if you chunk, if you miss one time, you'll just get it the next time. Like as long as you get if you chunk them or kill them one time, it's worth, right? When you tactical fire like 3 or 4 times during like the course of like a poking session or a fight. But so if you get all 3, you get, what would that be, 70% crit, which is a little bit overkill. But you also get 180 damage, and the attack speed is the big thing, because you really need that attack speed. And the movement speed as well. So yeah, I can see all 3 just because there's enough utility there for it.
Toss in a Muramasa and you got one hell of a build for shredding things. But I have a question based off this. Does this solve the issue of marksman just being paper? Because none of this adds like necessary true tankiness. Because the bow slaughter will add a lot of lifesteal, which is great if you don't get one shot, which we're going to assume is not going to happen for sake of argument. We're going to assume somehow you don't ever get one shot, but you get close. Is it still going to be the situation of you only take marksmen in very, very, very specific compositions where you know you can defend them and keep them alive, and you know you can make it to late game so that they can scale up, or do they have more of a fighting chance in the early and mid?
Let's clarify first of all, because you're talking about pro play. Because people will still play a lot of marksmen.
People will play whatever they want in solo queue, and that's fine.
Yeah, throughout Masters, by the way. Not even... they'll still play those heroes, unless Max just goes nuts, you know, and he starts becoming like an auto ban. But one thing I will say, it doesn't really answer your question, but I mean, it kind of indirectly does. Like the thing I'm about to say is that the Bow of Slaughter is an indirect nerf to Omni-Arms, because Omni-Arms provided enough lifesteal. Like, you could get by on 10% from Omni-Arms. You know, you could go Clavis, you go Slicks, you go some other damage, and you have no life, like Soul Reaver maybe, right? Which, by the way, has lifesteal now. But you needed some lifesteal. You needed something, right? And you didn't want to get Fafnir's, you want to get the bees, so you go, okay, I'll get Omni. Gives me a bunch of stuff as well. It's fine. Now, people can go Frostcape, and that kind of answers your question, right? Because now they can get Frostcape, be a little more durable, and still have the panic button lifesteal from Bow of Slaughter. Right. They don't need Omni-Arms anymore for the lifesteal. Because then, again, you need a little bit of lifesteal to stay on the map. You can't just be going back to base every time. And when you're in like a battle with someone, whether it's a team fight or like a one-on-one thing, you need that extra lifesteal. It's a really big deal, because when you're hitting for 1,000, you would like to have some of that return as life to you. Because you have like a ton of damage as marksman, obviously.
Yeah. You could only hope.
So yeah, I think that Bow of Slaughter, and all the movements around with this crit nonsense, will make it so that people will choose Frostcape more over Omni-Arms, and so therefore they will be a little bit more durable. To answer your question.
There we go. Maybe we'll see more marksmen come out in pro play.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed.
Or the NA will still dread that, and they never consider it, and still, you know.
People are already picking Morin and Lindis, and obviously Violet. So sometimes you see Slims. By the way, do you guys have the... I don't see the... Okay, here's the balance adjustment. I was wondering where that was. Alright, let's go on the list then, since we found that. I was trying to look for that just now. Alright, Soul Reaver. Attack damage goes down a little bit. Lifesteal goes up. I think this is overall buff. Soul Reaver...
Lifesteal big plus.
Sorry?
Yeah, lifesteal's a nice plus.
Yeah, it was really annoying to not have lifesteal after they changed Soul Reaver in the last patch. And this is a slight nerf, I believe, to Scorching Wind. Just because you can just get Soul Reaver now. 15% CDR plus decent amount of damage plus lifesteal as well. Like, unless you really need the attack speed from Scorching Wind, just go Soul Reaver.
That's kind of, at least from what I've seen, that's what people were just literally getting Scorching Wind for, was just the attack speed mostly.
Right, but the lifesteal was kind of important as well.
Yeah.
It's just, the thing is, what I've noticed when you have Soul Reaver in your build, especially as a marksman, it's hard to find the lifesteal elsewhere. Just because Soul Reaver kind of messes with your build a little bit. And so, between Soul Reaver and Bolt Slaughter, it's now a lot easier to get lifesteal. Which means Goodbye Beast. Or at least hopefully, I think people will still be like enamored by the 25% lifesteal and pick it. But it should be just Goodbye Beast. No reason to get that anymore. And slight nerf to Omni Arms. And Fafnir's Talon as well. Because Fafnir's Talon, people don't realize the 10% that, or the 8%, whatever it is, that it takes off of people who stack armor. Or stack, HP. That's subject to armor. Subject to get reduced by armor. So if they stack like armor and HP items, which there are plenty of, like Shield of the Lost, then it's not nearly as effective. Like Fafnir's Talon, a lot of its value comes in the attack speed and the lifesteal, and not the actual, chunking of their health pool.
Right.
All right, let's go on. Muramasa, price for chain. Okay, that's where they've worded it differently this time. Went up by 40 gold. So attack damage 75, cooldown speed 10%, armor pierce 45%, up from 40%. I don't know why they worded this differently. They don't have the arrow. Where are my arrows? So it went from 40 to 45%. Cooldown speed was already 10%, and attack damage was, I believe, 70. I'm gonna go check.
DTwo, we're gonna look really quick.
70.
Yes, 70. And armor pierce was 40.
Right. So
5% buffs there for 40 more gold.
Well, that's way more than the gold price. So overall buff, definitely.
Super buff.
Yeah, it's really good. And especially because it's the only pierce item that, the only non-Spirit Longinus item that provides CDR, which only leaves out Rank Breaker. But the point is that if you're choosing between Muramasa and Rank Breaker, it's now shifted even further in the direction of Muramasa. So some people get both, which kind of bugs me, but
because it applies flat before percentage, right?
Yeah. So basically, the 250 from Rank Breaker goes to 150 effectively.
It's rough.
All right, key optimizations. Their legs fit their running, their movement speeds, and max banned in 3v3 and deathmatch modes.
I hope they come back and fix that properly, but
yeah.
I can't find myself motivated to care enough. I don't play max anyways.
Oh, I freaking main max, so
rough.
But only in ranked. Only when I try hard, just because he's like so good.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I don't really care about max and other modes. All right, let's go through the hero adjustments. If they're not big adjustments, let's just zoom through them because it's this video is getting pretty long. All right, Kriknak, the Pixie, ability 3 Moonfall, cooldowns reduced. Good.
Cool.
Good. Makes her. I think that's better, by the way. It's like she needs her ult much more often. Vera is actually an interesting one. Passive ability Come Hither. We're all assuming that this is in addition to her passive already. Reduce the current cooldown of all abilities by 25%, the maximum cooldown time after kill or assist. So of the maximum cooldown time is the keyword there. So even if you get CDR items, it will reduce it even more. So for instance, I believe her ult is 12 seconds at level 3. So if you have 40% cooldown or 40% CDR items, then it goes down to 7.2 seconds. And then 25% of the 12 seconds is 3. So that would go down to 4.2. So you use your ult, you kill someone, 4.2 seconds later you have another ult. It's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
So
I'd say that's pretty decent.
I think, I mean, just, shameless plug, talking about the Samurai Gamers tier list. I think that this moves here from tier 4 to tier 3. Just gut reaction, because that's a really powerful thing. She's still not going to be that great, but she's going to be significantly stronger because of this. All right, let's move on then.
Cool.
I think that JBeeZee and TJ died. They're still in the room, by the way, if
It's
people
possible.
are wondering. All right.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay. All right. Natalia, Arcane Nova, predictable speed 12.5 meters per second rather than 10 meters per second. Is that meters?
I'm going to assume so.
I think a meter refers to 100 units. So, yeah, it's a big deal because if you hit your Arcane Nova, they kind of just melt because that means they get hit by the rest of your abilities, which hurt a lot. So this is kind of a big deal, even though it's just.
I mean, no matter how you look at it, it's 25%, so that's
right.
Pretty.
Yeah, basically, whenever you play against Natalia, it's just you dodge her Arcane Nova and you're fine. If you dodge her Arcane Nova, she can't do anything against you. So this is a big deal for her to be able to get that. All right, Diao-chan. So there's a big paragraph here about Diao-chan and wanting to be able to use her against mobile heroes. Like I don't even want to say in theory because the theory is very flimsy, but in theory, kind of, sort of, Diao-chan was the, counter, quote unquote, to mobile heroes because you could slow them down and freeze them. But in reality, the exact opposite was the case because Diao-chan could never catch them and they just jumped on her before she could do anything. So
you can now capture the Flash at last.
Maybe,
yeah, that's a big maybe.
So
it's no buff though.
Yeah, well, first thing, ability 1 Chilling Frost gets a pretty nice buff, going from 0.84 AP to 0.85 AP. I think that's just for more their own. I think that's for their own numbers' sake. They just want everything to be nice and even, which I don't mind.
Yeah, if you look at the scaling, they do the same thing there, where before it was ending in all kinds of weird numbers.
Yeah.
Keeping things even is much easier to handle than trying to, blow things out of proportion. Most times.
So nice buff on her Chilling Frost. But the bigger thing is Diamond Dust. She now has 2 uses of her second ability. You freeze the same target continuously within 5 seconds. Whoa, hello. The target will be frozen for 0.75 seconds. So
well, it's 2 additional uses as well. So that's
big.
So
she has 3 uses?
Yeah.
Oh,
assuming that was translated correctly, that's
insane. That's
nutty.
So it's still hard to catch someone, but if you have 3 circles on the ground, then that's kind of that. It's a
pretty wide net you just cast. So
the cooldown is 1 second, but still, it's really annoying.
I told you, the Flash is catchable now.
Hopefully,
for sure.
You just throw them out. You just throw out Diamond Dust in random directions.
Point A and point B. That's it. Yeah, there you go.
Hope he gets caught by it. And in line with that, they lowered the mana cost. Alright, Liliana. Shining Light / Foxtrot. Magic damage is reduced eventually by 100 in the late game. AP goes from 0.8 to 0.7. I believe they lowered it from 0.9 to 0.8 previously, so once again, this gets nerfed in that regard. Just, sometimes she can get up to 1,000 AP, so that's 100 damage. It's kind of, it's not that insignificant. 200. So basically, it drops by roughly 200 magic damage once you get to the late game. So, it's a ring of vitality.
And it's a pump spell too. So,
right.
Any reduction in damage is fairly significant.
And the ability range goes from, I believe, this 900 units to 8.5 to 850 units. And the actual, the effective range, if you include the radius of the actual ability, was more like 1,200 units. So this makes it 1,150 units, kind of. It's still really long, but it's not as oppressive. I don't think I think they really like Liliana as one of the poster girls, so they don't want to kill her, but they still need to nerf her.
Right.
All right. Illumia, Divine Light, magic damage goes up a teensy tiny bit. I mean, I think this is again just making the numbers more even.
Literally plus 20.
Yeah. Banish, slowdown effect. So it looks like a nerf if you look at the first line, but the second line, the slowdown duration is 1 second. So even 30% for 1 second is going to be effectively more than 50% for 0.5 seconds. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you had Kil'Groth and you got hit by Banish, you don't even feel it. You're just like, oh, 0.3 seconds, or like, yeah, 0.25 seconds.
And I don't know if you guys heard about this, but someone was telling me that her ult is going to be unavoidable now.
What?
I'm not sure. I'm just putting that out there. But
You
someone
mean
was saying like
slow by banish?
yeah, like once if you can get that off and then you just use your ult, like they will not be able to get out of it.
Oh, that's what you meant.
Yeah, I'm tying it into banish. I'm not just like throwing out there like you can't dodge the ult now.
I was like, that can't be true. Ult's broken.
So, like in like a situation, and I've seen a few Illumina games where she does like get caught out, and you know like there's 4 people going on her. She could do a perfect banish right there, whether they have gilded or not, and she pops ulti. There is a high chance they will not get out of that, and she can stun them.
Okay, well, unavoidable is a bit of a strong term to use because there's a lot of heroes with blink and things like that. So I'm pretty sure Tulin and Liliana and those people can avoid it. They just blink away.
Wow, John combo for the win.
Coming back to relevancy together.
I'm gonna have to drop out. But I just briefly before I leave, I don't know if you've already touched on it, but Kriknak is what I'm most alarmed by in this patch.
Oh, we can talk about that before you go.
Okay.
We'll just skip Kriknak because, like you said, that is the biggest change.
Here are my thoughts. Kriknak was already fine, beyond fine. He was a pretty good character. What they've done is basically, depending on your build, he can be like absurdly powerful now. I mean, I think this puts him maybe around the tier of Superman level of broken. Am I overreacting?
Maybe, but if you are overacting, then I'm overacting as well. I completely agree.
Okay.
I think the damage is out of control. He already does a ton of damage, and now they just tuned it up like double for
Why does his percent max HP scale with AD?
Yeah, and if these two are panicking, I'm panicking.
He didn't have enough strengths. They're like Kriknak. Now there's a well-rounded character.
Well, look at the right side though. He has no excuse now. He has absolutely no excuse for jumping into the back line onto that ADC, and if that ADC is not dead, something's wrong with the Kriknak.
If the ADC, his family, everyone who supported him all the way through school, his grandmother's cousin, his grandmother's cousin's friend in elementary.
He now hits people hard enough that like their extended family dies. Nibiria is absolutely right. He hits people so hard that their family in Korea falls over dead. And people are like, why'd that happen? Oh, because Kriknak hit him for fucking 8 billion damage because he built AD. Like, I think that's insane.
It's like, oh no, we're fading away.
I don't think Flash will be able to reverse. I don't think so.
I'm fully relying on all of you guys, including the rest of the casters and anyone else who catches on, to make this into a meme right here. Kriknak with attack equipment is not enough for him to kill the enemy by himself. So anytime we see Kriknak just completely wipe a team in a professional match, I hope to see the Twitch chat just filled with
Kriknak with attack equipment is not enough to kill an enemy by himself.
Yeah, just
Kriknak with attack equipment can only kill an entire team by himself. Unfortunately, it's not balanced enough. Deep breaths.
I know.
We're fine.
No, but I fully expect the Twitch chat to be filled with JBeeZee, not enough to kill the enemy by himself, JBeeZee. Just all over chat. Just a wall of... Like, after he just kills 3 people by himself, it's like, not enough for him to kill the enemy by himself, JBeeZee, lol.
Oh yeah.
Omega lol.
I'm glad we could touch on that.
Yes.
because I read the patch notes, and like everything else is pretty genuinely awesome. Like I agree with the vast majority of the changes they've
Right.
made. I think even the changes I don't agree with will be interesting if nothing else. I like kind of want to see how they turn out. The one thing in this patch where I was just like, not only I don't understand, but I actively kind of want to like CIA style interrogate whoever does understand this. Is the Kriknak changes, because in my mind, Kriknak is about at the level he should be, where sometimes people play him because he's good for a matchup or a game, right? And that's all characters should be viable in a specific matchup. No character, in my mind, should be viable in every matchup. You should always be encouraged to play multiple things and adapt to your opponents. And Kriknak was at about that level in the previous few patches. That, I think, was borne out in competitive play. Kriknak, the bug boy, is now the best boy. And at least in competitive, he will be the banned boy. Because we are never going to see this Kriknak in comp play, at least not after he solos an entire 5-man team a few times and people go, wait, he's broken.
The funny
Plus
thing.
Wait,
side,
that was
though-
actually kind of cool.
Plus side, though, we did find a counter to Superman, TJ.
Can we safely assume though that Crick Boy turned into Crick Man immediately? Pretty sure he upgraded.
I would say so. But
Yeah.
the funny thing is, a lot of times you see strange decision by devs. It's like, why did this person need a buff? Why did this person need a nerf? But it's usually like a slight adjustment, slight tuning of the numbers. For Kriknak, it just feels like there's one crazy dev at Team
Oh my god, look at his alt change.
Yeah, we know. We know. And it's just like this
Every
one
single
person.
change I look at again
There's
is
this
like,
yeah.
what?
There's this one Kriknak main on the team who's just like, I want to get to master. So they just tune up the numbers like crazy.
Guys,
It's
just
like-
give me 1 week to get to masters.
Oh my god. It's insane. It's just like the amount that he's been buffed is insane. And the one thing I want to touch on is that sometimes there are heroes who, due to their kits, are just inevitably going to be top tier, right? They just have, like, Liliana. Her kit is just really good. Unless you nerf her numbers into the ground, she's always going to be useful, right?
Right.
What I'm fine with those heroes being top tier, right? Sometimes you can tune them down a little bit. If you're, like, expertly tune them, you can maybe make them in line with the more, like, immobile mages and stuff like that. But I'm more or less okay with those heroes being crazy. What I don't really like is when a hero is insane just because his numbers are insane, like Superman, for instance. There's nothing really crazy about his kit. He just has insane. He does a ton of damage, and he's also tanky. It like doesn't make any sense. Like, the only reason why he's OP is because his numbers are just tuned way off the charts. And this is the same exact thing with Kriknak. He's going to be super OP, but not because of anything cool about his kit. It's just he just does 1 billion damage with all of his abilities now.
This is gonna be a fun.
All right, let's go through them. We've talked about it enough. Let's actually go over them. Additional physical damage on the next normal attack goes from 4.43 AD to 100, plus 0.8 additional AD. So that's worded a little bit differently, but it already says additional physical damage. So I'm guessing it goes from, it's nearly double for the additional AD part itself, and it goes to more than double if you include the 100. So his passive is double damage. All right, let's go to ability 1. Physical damage from Terrifying Plague when you cast it. So basically how Terrifying Plague works is it deals damage, and then when you attack them afterward, it does like extra magic damage. On top of the bite passive, by the way. So if people don't realize, people who don't play Kriknak much, you do a ton of damage on the attack after Terrifying Plague, because not only does it apply bite, it also applies the extra magic damage from Terrifying Plague. And the damage has gone up, what is that, 160 at the beginning, and toward late game 285, in addition to 0.35 extra AD on top of that. If you have a standard build of, like, say if you have like 500 AD, right? That means that you're doing an extra 350 damage. You're doing 350 damage more. just from the little, plague that flies out. Then, when you attack them afterward, it, instead of doing 10% of their match HP, now it does 10 plus 0.1% of... Wait, this is actually confusing. Plus 0.01 additional AD percent of max HP. So
for each 100 points, you'll get an additional 1% max HP shred.
So again, going back to our other example of having 500 AD, additional AD though. Does that mean your AD or your?
It means like bonus from items and stuff. I don't know if it includes level scaling though. We'll just assume it's just from items because it's still really strong.
Right. It's
just
still,
assuming that.
you're still doing like 13% of their max HP as magic damage, by the way.
Yeah.
So better get that new guy standard.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those things where it's the 10% is mitigated by magic damage or magic defense, but still. Go ahead.
I've run the numbers, D2, based on the kit changes, and the total scaling, the total damage that has been gained by Kriknak is as follows: 1.87 multiplier of AD on his whole kit, the plus 0.01% match HP, and 1170 base damage. Now, if you can still no longer solo assassinate someone with that much of an increase, that increase is like an entire other hero's kit.
Yeah.
Added on top. So let me just say this: if the dev team still thinks there's problems solo killing someone with Kriknak with full attack, they're playing a different build than we are.
By the way, not only does this allow them to kill people easier, obviously, it allows them to just rush through the jungle. He might be one of the fastest junglers in the game now. So you immediately go to level 4. The opponent's still at like level 2.5. You just kill someone.
Well, and the other thing is that's so crazy to me is that you can now build him Bruiser and do exactly as much or more damage than he was doing before as full blast cannon and be tankier. And you have healing. And it's just...
I guess they wanted to turn him into like Zephys or something like that, or Butterfly, where you could just build all tanky and still do a ton of damage. That could be it.
I guess.
Because think about it. You could build all tanky, and the numbers are already there. Like the raw numbers. But if you include the percentages, like the attacking someone after a terrifying plague, 10% of their max HP, it literally doesn't matter what your items are. Because it's percentage based. But that said, if you go to our next thing, Horn Rush, HP regen off of that went up.
Yeah, that's just nutty.
I mean, it only went up a little bit if you look at the... actually, it went down on the final stages. So the 400 went to... By 10. It went up in the early game. So it helps you in the early game, which is kind of funny for Kriknak because his strength initially was, or has always been, that he's been an early game hero. So, but all the AD you get, it helps you heal as well. More for Horn Rush. So if you build AD, you still get the extra survivability. Not to mention physical damage. Like the actual damage that you deal is way higher. It's way higher. Went from 380 to 665. Plus additional 25% AD. And finally, drone drop went from 650 to 1150 at level 12. And plus 0.9 AD. Goes from 1.5 to 2.4. That's unbelievable. Like, literally, drone drop by itself will chunk a marksman to half.
Oh, yeah.
Just by itself. Like, literally, if they do not have Frostcape, even if they do have Frostcape.
I mean, buy a Frostcape yourself, and then suddenly they can't get out once you land on them.
No, I'm saying, like, even if they have Frostcape, they're not going to be able to deal with the magic damage from Terrifying Plague. No. So, like... It's nearly impossible, even at equal levels, for you to not kill them with one combo. like just drone drop, Terrifying Blade, Horn Rush, attack. And that's not even making full use of your bite passive. Which, like, I'm just saying, you don't even need to, like, drone drop, attack, Horn Rush, attack, Terrifying Plague, attack. Most of the time, you can just drone drop, Terrifying Plague, attack, and they're dead. Most of the time.
Yeah. And then you can Horn Rush out.
And then you can Horn Rush out. Exactly.
Like,
later.
And drone drop doesn't even have a ridiculously long cooldown either. It's like 24 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, and
not even.
I forgot what it was.
Pretty short.
No, I'm saying I was about to say that
oh, okay.
If you hit someone with the attack after Terrifying Plague, the cooldown reduces of either that or something else. Oh yeah, it's of itself. Never mind. Okay. So if you Terrifying Plague and attack, then the ability is the cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds of Terrifying Plague. Anyway, the point is, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know why they tuned it so high. He's already terrifying. He's already in his current form. If he jumps on someone, they're usually dead. If they get caught out, they're usually dead. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they want him to be able to kill people even when they're not caught out. He just dives their tower, kills them, jumps out. That might be the case. Anyway, we should speed through these.
Yeah.
Going back to... Do we still have JBeeZee here?
He's in the ether somewhere.
What's up?
Anyway,
What's up?
we did our Kriknak spiel. We're going back to Kali. So,
Nice.
Kali, Spiritual Blessing, add a passive effect. So basically, even if you don't activate it, you'll still have extra ability power and movement speed, which is nice because you don't get stuck having nothing without it. If you add these numbers, it goes from 270 to 300 ability power, so it's actually a buff. And then your movement speed goes from 22.5% to 24%. So everything's a buff, basically. You have more stuff before and after you activate it.
Really nice.
It's good. Okay. So, Lord of Mischief, Alistair, Wicked Plot, 3 damage inflicted by explosion, goes from before 130 to now somewhere between 10 and 150 more, depending on your level. This is actually really hard to get off, because every third attack applies 1 stack, and you have to get 3 stacks, so it's 9 attacks. Obviously, you can get stacks from your abilities too, but that means you have to basically stand in them. If you get 1 combo off, you get basically 1 explosion, so it's meh. It's fine. You'll basically every time it's a buff. Every time you catch someone, you'll do like 150 to 300 more damage, basically. Magic Barrier, cooldown reduced early game, sure. Mages of Woe, excuse me, cooldown reduced by 1. Everything is good. It's fine. He's slightly better. He's not gonna be crazy, but he's slightly better.
Yeah. I don't know. His play though, in most of the comps that they're running now, I still think like DTwo would still be good over what Alistair offers.
That is true. That DTwo might be a more viable option with her buffs than Alistair. Alistair was the anti-dive hero, basically. Like, he's horrible on solo queue. He works like a support mage in competitive play, where if they have a super dive comp and they dive your tower, you hit them with your ult and they die. And it's kind of funny to watch, but or you just run around and you hold them down while your team kills them. So
exactly. Well, until you get jumped and then you start calling for help and nobody's helping you.
Well, that's why you only play them competitively. Anyway, this is a crazy change to Maganga.
I like the changes.
His first ability stores 2 uses, and the charge time goes from... It's basically, the charge time is 2 seconds longer than the actual cooldown, but it's, yeah, he's basically doubling up on how much he has. And on top of that, the damage went up. And that's the base damage, right? So you don't even need the AP. Basically, you could just build Maganga like a tank, because the AP doesn't really matter. And you just throw on his one. His one was a very useless ability other than clearing waves and getting monsters in some situations. So this will be much more useful in team fights. It kind of makes him a bit like Preda in a way, in a weird indirect way, because now you can kind of just throw out abilities from you know, not that far, but just kind of spam your abilities and make it annoying for them. And it makes it really hard for them to push into your base. You can just clear all the waves and be super defensive. Alright, Dinar, he looks different now. He's got a weird robe with like square orbs, which doesn't make any sense.
They did have to put a muzzle over his mouth so he can't do incantations anymore.
Rip. Rip. Okay, Sutra of Pain cooldown went down in the early game. Fine. It was really long cooldown before, so sure. Nirvana cooldown went down a little bit. Shouldn't make too much of a difference. Well, it's like 3 seconds. Raz. Move on. Jinnar was already pretty good. It's just kind of slight buffs.
Yeah.
Not to mention more round numbers, which I'm guessing Teamy likes. Teamy/Tencent. Raz. More armor per level, and more damage on his fireball, but it's not that much more. It's, if you include the AP, it's like 50 at most. So, not much change. The armor is a big deal, because let's see, he starts off with 6 more armor, and he will get 2 more armor per level, so 2 times 15, 30, so 36 more armor. It's kind of makes him a little more survivable. He's pretty flimsy beforehand, so okay. Oh, and the fireball thing is like, it's more damage early game, which is kind of important, because later game he already had a ton of damage. Zill, passive Dust Devil, which is, by the way, the same exact name as Azzen'Ka's ability 2, Dust Devil, which you can see on the screen. Anyway,
That's rough.
Oh, that's always fun.
Zill's normal attacks will deal 65 plus 10 level magic damage when they hit a monster. I'm guessing that it didn't do that. Maybe he was clearing
It
too
did not.
fast. What did it do
just
before?
checked. Well, I don't know if this is changing his passive entirely or adding to it, because
I think
right
it's
now his normal attacks deal 40 additional magic damage, but it also applies the marks at which at 3 stacks it reduces movement speed by 80%. And then when he normal attacks anything with 3 marks, his wind shift cooldown is immediately refreshed.
I think
And
this
target takes it.
okay, hold on. Wind shifts cooldown is immediately fast and target takes an additional 150 damage plus 0.4 AP. I believe this is a nerf then? No?
I'm wondering if this is just changing the one line. That
Oh,
says,
no, the one on the bottom. You're right. My mistake. Okay, so at the
Yeah.
bottom of Zill's passive, it says Zill's normal attacks deal additional 40 magic damage. So against monsters, they deal more. Specifically 75 up to 215. So he clears faster. Okay, sure. Next,
Why not?
Azzen'Ka. Dust Devil. When the Dust Devil hits the same target twice, damage percentage on the second hit is now 60%, 80%. Don't stand near the minion wave when you're playing against Azzen'Ka, because it hurts more now.
I still think Azzen'Ka's got like potential, like it's there. I mean, maybe he can't run with a lot of comps, but like, he's not bad.
He's too slow.
He's slow, but with a guy who has no legs and carries sand, it's to be expected, kind of.
What's the
True.
range on Dust Devil? Hold on, let me just check. Let me just check. Good old Samurai Gamers.
Also, that is actually the most annoying part about him, at least back when I used to play him. He was the first character I played when I came on AOV, and you would just use Dust Devil so much.
Right.
And that alone, the poke was annoying. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, if they're staying by minions, it made it worse.
So the ability range is 750 units. The reason why it's that short is because you can hit minions and it hits the heroes behind them, but if they just dodge, and if you're in a team fight, you have to like kind of get close to them. So yeah, Dust Devil is his kind of bread and butter. He wouldn't think so, because if you play against him, you're always thinking of the sand punch and the hurrah sand wraith, right? But his poke is Dust Devil. So this is nice, because if there's like 2 people you're playing against, if you're fighting like 2v2 for instance, and you hit one of them, there's a lot more damage now. So
His ultimate is still a pretty sweet feature. You know, I've actually I just recently I played a couple ranked games with him because it was kind of a weird situation, but because of those ultimates, my team was able to make plays off of it and it worked out well. So you know, depending positioning and who he's with, and of course if the other people correspond with him, it can come out nicely.
Oh, hello, Lord Kazekage in chat. What's going on? All right, let's move on. We need to get through these. All right, Preda, poison gas bomb, ability range 9 meters, 8.5 meters. He was pretty good after the latest buff to him, so they didn't want to make it so that he was like pushing people from super far away. I don't really like this nerf because I kind of like Preda being strong, and the mechanic of pushing people around with poison gas bomb was kind of nice, but not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
All right, Tara. This is insane, by the way. It's a tiny.
This is gonna be annoying.
Tiny looking change, but she's going to be a terror in the Darkslayer lane because the biggest thing is that against Tara, you get Curse of Death, or what's that called? Death Sickle? Not Death Sickle.
Was it the AP version of the?
No, sorry, Curse of Death or
Health Stalker?
Tome of the Reaper. Sorry, I was getting the.
Yeah, there we go.
But early game now, she's gonna have that healing as well. And the one thing, when you're playing as Tara, even if she gets level 4, you basically just put pressure on her, force her to use her ult, and then you run away. And you can say, ha, you don't have your ult anymore for a long time. Now, she's just a crazy, bruising monster. So,
as long as you have CD, she's going to be twice as annoying as before.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, her ability 1 is... No, sorry, her ability 2, excuse me, is 5 seconds, so she doesn't really need CD for that. Alright, Wisp. Remove the effect for the movements. So no more movement speed reduction on her passive. It's longer range as more duration.
That does kind of make sense for her. I mean, if you think about it, how often did someone actually run through her passive?
Well, how often will they even run through it now? Anyway, next to Barrel Bomb. Collision radius. Phase 2 explosion radius. I was confused by this. I don't know what this means.
It can hit towers now.
I know the tower thing is a big deal, but I don't understand because these can't be units.
So phase, well, I don't know. I'm assuming it goes by the phase 1 is like when it starts rolling, or like as it's going, and then phase 2 is just the when it explodes, when it gets to the end of its rope. I'm assuming that's how they're doing it.
It doesn't go 2,400 units though. That's extremely long.
Okay, maybe that part is. Well, that just damage numbers. Maybe no. Let's talk about radius. Okay. Yeah. No, that's.
I don't know what that means.
They could be going by area, or they could be doing diameter instead of radius and just saying radius.
No, but even as diameter, that would be massive.
Huh.
Like if okay, Dao Chan's ult radius is
it's
800. It's 800 units.
Oh. All right. Well, we'll just pretend we understood that and say it's buff. Radius goes up, and it does damage to buildings, so we can say it's a buff.
We'll focus on that big part, the buildings. There you go.
The problem is you will be tempted to hit buildings when there's no minions around, and this just doesn't do damage anyway. And if there's minions around,
that would be a waste. Yeah.
Yeah, and if there's minions around, you could just kill it super quickly with your auto attack anyway. So it's meh. It's something though. Like
maybe it's like that extra push when like someone's trying to defend the tower's like really low, and you need you can't get to it with Wisp, right?
Yeah.
So you just throw the bomb out, and the bomb with minions will just pop that last tower. Maybe that's what they're trying to look into. Yeah. Same with since it says buildings, it's probably going to work on the Nexus. So same situation with the Nexus. If you want to get that last couple hits in, you just toss the bomb in there. It goes past heroes when they try to go through it, so it's no biggie, and then you can just pop it, explode it.
Yeah.
I think that's how they want it to work.
Right. I think they just wanted to make it so that's useful, because it was such a bad ability before. And
yeah, before it's all you did was stun people and then just chase them.
Well, you didn't even stun people because if they're chasing after you, then it'd go through them. It's really annoying.
Oh, that's even worse. Yeah.
So now that there's a reason why it goes through people, that there's some utility to that. Okay, next one. Valheim Pocket Glaive now heals when you hit with a blue. So if you don't know, every third attack you either hit with a blue, a yellow, or a red. Red is AoE, yellow is stun, and blue just gave you mana, which was really bad. Now it gives you HP, so it does more stuff now. It's very unreliable. It only happens like 1/3 of the time, and 1/9 of the time if you think about how much 1/9 of your attacks will be a blue glaive. So it's just,
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they even wanted to touch Valheim in the first place.
Well, this is just kind of like you know, just cleaning things up, because it's like two of the things were good and the other thing was like bad, right? It's one thing if they're all different effective things, but which one will come up? It's like, no, two of them are really good and one of them was horrible, and it's like, okay, now we made it useful. Next, Bloody Hunt, magic damage goes up. Now you're, I think the weird 0.91 AD was awkward, and again, they just made the numbers more clean, and it gave him a slight buff in the process. All right, Astrid. Shield is bigger. Nice. Spin Slash. The inability to move caused by this ability has been shortened by 0.1 seconds. Nice. Fearless Charge. Inability to move caused by this ability has been shortened by 0.1 seconds. Nice. Okay, she's less clunky now. Okay, next. Superman. Kryptonian Strength. The damage has been nerfed, which is very nice. Also, slow percentage goes down as well. So, any nerfs to Superman we will take, even though they're just somewhat significant, I suppose. But yeah, need those Superman nerfs. Still gonna be really good though. Next one, Max.
Okay.
Liftoff. Stun time 1.5 seconds to 1 second. This makes sense. There's no reason why the liftoff stun time had to be so long in the first place. Liftoff by itself is already ridiculously good. Provides vision, does a ton of damage to their backline. You basically get on them and kill them instantly. So yeah, his max is still going to be really good. This didn't need to be this strong, and the utility of the ability is still there. Moving on, Butterfly Backstab. Damage goes down slightly. Looks like not by that much though, so not going to be a huge deal. But you won't be able to completely kill people with just her base kit anymore. Kil'Groth. Enraged Spear. There's a big paragraph explaining why they moved the damage from the third attack. They basically, the third normal attack was equal to the amount of damage when you activated 2. So all of his attacks when you activated his second ability was enhanced in the way that his third attack was enhanced, other than the healing. And so they made it so once you activate your second ability, it's not as powerful as your third attack. So he's better when he's not using his second ability, and he's worse when he's now using second ability compared to before. That said, you still want to use your second ability because you get the effect on all of your attacks.
Sounds about right.
There's also less magic damage, which is fine. All right, Scud. Furious Charge. Movement distance increase while Beast Fury. Stun time 1.5 seconds. Scud was not very good for a little bit. I was thinking of lowering him in our tier list. So yeah, he kind of needed a buff, and this is a nice buff. The Furious Charge wasn't very long. Now this will help. By the way, if you don't play Scud, because no one plays him really that much, if you use your third ability, then you get an automatic reset on your first ability. So his combo is better now. You can charge him from farther away. You stun them. You use Beast Fury. Stun them for 1.5 seconds. They seem like slight, improvements, but they're significant.
I actually didn't keep up with Scud for a while.
We went over Kriknak before. He's broken. They completely broke him.
Buster need.
Next, Slims. Character growth attack speed, 2% to 3%. I don't know what this means. It's like a weird translation thing.
Well, he is trustworthy, so I think they wanted to allow him to have a little bit more attack speed so that his team's not like, what are you doing, Slims? You know?
So I think it means he'll just have 14% more attack speed at level 15. Because I think that's the level up flat bonus.
Okay, well,
so
1% attack speed's not going to make it that much difference anyway.
Nothing major, but they still threw in something for him.
All right, let's move on. We don't know what's going on here. Okay, Alice. Remade Alice's default skin. She looks prettier now. I don't mean that in she looked in her actual physical appearance. I mean
move on, DTwo. Move on.
Oh god. All right. Sunshine. Okay. So basically, they reduced the cooldown and the animation is better. So from the time you cast it to when it hits the target, it's the same. But
Which is nice.
I think that this gives the opponent slightly more time to react because it'll appear sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Overall,
Gotta distract them.
yeah, it makes it more smooth. Slight nerf on the actual animation thing, but cooldown's better, so overall buff. Friendship cooldown went on slightly. That's good. Doesn't really make much of a difference. Hissy Fit. This was kind of needed. Being able to instantly pretty much cast Hissy Fit was a little bit crazy, especially with how she works with Flash. I think this might have been a reaction to the Wombo combo of Flash's ult after using Hissy Fit. And it just was, you know, your entire team dies. So, you know, making certain that the combo doesn't immediately screw you over was perhaps necessary. Especially because in competitive play, Alice was like wrecking.
Time for Alice to shine again.
Kind of. Anyway. Teamy, Pooty Boots, movement speed increased while charging, 8% to 6%. Being a bro, cooldown went even higher toward the late game.
Is he still permaban?
They reduced him a little more.
He's still ridiculous. The movement speed is kind of a big deal because being able to catch up to people and stun them was a lot of his utility outside of obviously his ultimate. Although 2% of 400 movement or like 460 movement speed is what, like 8 to 10. So you're going 8 to 10 units per second slower. It's not that much of a change, but it's something. The being a bro cooldown increase, I mean 10 seconds is significant. So the biggest thing for this is if you get it off successfully in team fight, you usually will win that team fight and like reverse the game, or like basically win the game for you, right? But if you miss it, the thing is you can't screw up anymore, right? Because if you think about CDR, you know, it goes from 50 to like 30, now it goes from 60 to 40 ish, obviously I'm estimating. Now it's way more punishing if you miss a big bro, because now you can't really take a fight for a long time. That's what it does. All right, last one, Lindis. Ability 3 Lunar Champion. Ability range goes from 7.5 to 8. This is somewhat significant, just being able to spam out her 3 all the time and just doing that extra damage.
I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 0.5. Basically the equivalent of 500, or 50 units on the screen is not that big, but she was already seeing a lot of play in competitive play. She's probably already going to move up on her tier list in the next release. So strong hero gets stronger. Anything that makes marksman like more viable is a good thing, probably. All right, so we're done with our patch notes. Anything else we need to go over?
Do you want to do a quick wrap up of like what you think the changes are gonna do meta wise?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot to think about. The one obvious thing is Kriknak is going to be super powerful, which that doesn't really change the meta much because there were a lot of heroes that kind of fulfilled his role as assassin. But him being extremely mobile and being able to just completely wipe someone out, it might reduce some of the heroes that you're capable of playing. So even though we saw like slight buffs to, you know, backline Nuki mages, I think that if Kriknak starts to run amok, then you can say goodbye to those guys once again. But other than that, Kriknak's the biggest one. Everyone else is just kind of tiny changes. The heroes, other than Kriknak, don't have that big of a change. The biggest changes are the ones in the items and the kind of the builds that you'll do. The overall meta changing items, I would say, are Bow of Slaughter, which allows you to have more crit builds. I would say more importantly, it would be Gaia Standard and Rock Shield, which allows you to build more magic defense, and it is a kind of an indirect nerf on mages because there's more options there. So meta-wise, I would say more options for magic defense, more options for crit builds, and Kriknak. Changing things a little bit.
I'm down with that. That sounds like a fun patch.
Mm-hmm.
I think the patch was pretty decent overall. I mean, I'm happy with the nerfs that did go out. I feel like they were a little slap on the wristy, but the buffs for the most part were similar in degree until we got to now my brain exploded. But you know, you win some, you lose some. I like the patch overall. I'm super looking forward to the actives.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, I like the patch. I think that Kriknak is a bit of a mistake, but other than that, everything looks pretty good.